Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Random Fandom. I am your host, RavenWood, and welcome to RavenWood Reads. And like always, I want to make sure that everything is good, everything is nice and here, nice and whatever. This little thing, let's see what we want to have as a character today. Oh, we'll have Bumblebee as a co-host. All right. I am back. I am back. Here we are. Here we are. We are back. All right. So, okay. So, let's see here. Okay. So, I think what happened was he decided not to get married. I think. But just in case, I'll reread the beginning of the thing. Let me check something else here real quick. There we go. Oh, wait. There we go. Okay. I'm trying to find my stopping point or the place where I picked off. Um, give me one moment. Oh, okay. I found the place. Okay. But I'll read up. I'll read. Ooh. Okay. I'll reread the. This paragraph is rather long. I'll reread a certain point of the paragraph. Let me find it. in the page of 100. He laughed. Okay. So Will has decided to get married. And then he looked at the stars and then remembered all the people in his life, I guess, and not going to the city, not into things and whatnot. He remembered why he didn't want to go out and explore, why not to change and whatnot, and all that other jazz. So let me scoot him a bit this way. There we go. And have him facing y'all. There we go. I guess, he looked at the stars and whatnot. And anyways, so like he decided to tell, not his wife, but he decided to tell Majori, he didn't want to get married. He said, nah, forget it. He laughed aloud. Ho, ho, one and another, thought Will. The stars tremble and the blind goes up. Why, before heaven, what a great magician I must be. Now, if I were only a fool, should not I be in a pretty way? And he went off to bed, chuckling to himself. If I were only a fool. The next morning, pretty early, he saw her once more in the garden and sought her out. I have been thinking about getting married, he began abruptly. And after having turned it all over, I have made up my mind. I have made up my mind, and I have made up my mind. It's She turned upon him for a single moment, but his radiant, kindly appearance would, under the circumstances, have disconcerted an angel, and she looked down again upon the ground in silence. He could see her tremble. I hope you don't mind, he went on, a little taken aback. Sorry. I hope you don't mind, he went on, a little taken aback. You ought not. I have turned it all over, and upon my soul, there's nothing in it. We should never be one whit nearer than we are just now. And if I am a wise man, nothing like so happy. Is it unnecessary to go round about with me? She said. I very well remember that you refused to commit yourself, and now that I see you were mistaken, and in reality have never cared for me. I can only feel sad that I have been so far misled. I ask your pardon, said Will stoutly. You do not understand my meaning. As to whether I have ever loved you or not, I must leave that to others. But for one thing, my feeling is not changed, and for another, you may make it your boast that you have made my whole life and character something different from what they were. I mean what I say, no less. I do not think getting married is worthwhile. I would rather you went on living with your father so that I could walk over and so that I could walk over and see you once, maybe twice a week, as people go to church. And then we should both be all the happier between whiles. That's my notion. But I'll marry you if you will, he added. Do you know that you are insulting me? She broke out. Do you know that you are insulting me? She broke out. Nor I, my boy, said he. If there is anything in a clear conscience, not I. I am for all my heart's best affections. You can take it or want it, though I suspect it's beyond either your power or mine to change what has once been done and set me fancy free. I'll marry you, if you like, but I can tell you again and again, it's not worth a while. It's not worthwhile. For some reason, my brain is so wired for modern lingo, whatever, for modern language, right? Modern English language, right? Then this is like I'm so used to say a while versus while. In fact, I don't think people say while. Or at least, maybe, I don't know. I'm not certain. I'm overthinking something. I don't know. I'm just not thinking. Brain, help! I do not think getting married is worthwhile. I would rather you went on living with your the between whiles. That's my notion. I'll marry if you will. And I'll tell you, okay, so I tell you again, it's not worthwhile. And we had best stay friends. Though I am quite, though I am a, though I am a quiet man. I think it's quiet. Yeah. Anyways, I have noticed a heap of things in my life. Trust in me and take things as I propose. Oh, uh, take things as I propose. Or, no, if I wanted it large, I would have pressed that button. Anyways, okay, sorry. Trying to move something over. Let me just make sure it's also. It's so finicky. Why does it have to be this fin? Oh, can't. I cannot pick the corner. Can I just? Oh, wow! It's much easier doing this way. Okay, so I keep forgetting my laptop has a touchscreen. So, um, for some reason, I need to stop stretching. Well, I need to start stretching before stretching, but I keep forgetting, and then whatever. Anyways, for some reason, I keep forgetting my laptop's touchscreen. Anyways, trust in me and take things as I propose. Or, if you don't like that, say the word, and I'll marry you out of hand. There was a considerable pause in Will, who began to feel uneasy, began to grow angry in conscience. It seems you are too proud to say your mind, he said. Believe me, that's a pity. A clean strife makes a simple living. Can a man be more downright or honorable to woman than I have been? I have I have said my say and given you your choice. Do you want me to marry you, or will you make or will you take my friendship as I think best? He's friend zoning this girl. He's giving her the option, though. As I think best. Or have you had enough of me for good? Speak out for the dear God's sake. You know your father told you a girl should speak her mind in these affairs. Okay. She seemed to recover herself. At that, turned without a word, walked rapidly through the garden, and disappeared into the house, leaving Will in some confusion as to the result. Women. They can't make up their minds. He walked up and down the garden, whistling softly to himself. Sometimes he stopped and contemplated the sky and hilltops. Sometimes he went down to the tail of the weir and sat there, looking foolishly in the water. All this dubiety and perturbation. I don't have my phone with me at the moment, so I could go into another room and go get it, come back, but like I don't want to do that right now. um, I could Google it, but I also don't want to do that right now. I'll look it up later. Was so foreign to his nature and the life which he had resolutely chosen for himself that he began to regret Marjorie's arrival. After all, he thought, I was happy as a man need be. I could come down here and watch my fishes all day long if I wanted. I was I was as settled and contented as my old mill. Major came down to dinner, looking very trim and quiet, and no sooner were all three at no sooner were all three at no sooner were all three at table. It's legit says here, and no sooner were all three at table, not at the table, just at table. So at table. Then she made her father a speech, with her eyes fixed upon the plate, but showing no other sign of embarrassment or distress. Father, she began, Mr. Will and I have been talking things over. We see that we have each made a mistake about our feelings. And he has agreed, at my request, to give up all idea of marriage, and be no more than my very good friend, as in the past. You see, there is no shadow of a quarrel. And indeed I hope we shall see a great deal of him in the future, for his visits will always be welcome in our house. Of course, father, you will know best, but perhaps we should do better to leave Mr. Will's house for the present. I believe after what has passed, we should hardly be agreeable inmates for some days. Okay. Interesting. Let me check. Okay, a connection as well. The connection is great. Will, who had commanded himself with difficulty from the first, broke out upon this in into an into an ar- into an inarticulate noise, and raised one hand with an appearance of real dismay, as if he were about to interfere and contradict. But she checked him at once, looking up at him with a swift glance and an angry flush upon her cheek. "You will perhaps have the good grace," she said, "to let me explain these matters for myself." Will was put entirely out of countenance by her expression and the ring of her voice. He held out. He held. He held his peace, concluding that there were some things about this girl beyond his comprehension. Some things about a bit, something about this girl beyond his comprehension, in which he was exactly right. This is not a tough read, but for some reason I'm. Oh, I peeked ahead at the chapters. The poor parson was quite crestfallen. Yeah, that's quite. So quiet was okay. I get them confused. I don't know. The poor parson was quite crestfallen. He tried to prove that this was no more than a true. He tried to prove that this was no more than a true lover's tiff, which would pass off before the night. And when he was dislodged from that position, he went on to argue that there was no quarrel. There could that there was. He went on to argue that there was no quarrel. There could be no call for a separation, for the good man liked both his entertainment and his host. It was curious to see how the girl managed them, saying little all the time, and that yet to be quiet. Okay, that's one word I have to Google. That's one word I have to Google. Give me a second. I'm still alive, so do not worry. Where is the other internet? There's Google, and then there's I can't find the other internet. Microsoft Edge, I think. I don't know how Microsoft Edge. Okay, so it is an internet. Alright. Okay. No, I know it's called it is an internet. I think it was silly. Okay. DeFi. Uh, no, not woke. Gosh dang it. Not anonymous. Yerto? Where is it? Oh, it's over here on this page. Sorry. Okay. Define YMCA. Sorry. Define is right here. So let's here. Yetiviri. Huh. It says every. Interesting. It means every. Okay. I'm not convinced. Huh. I don't know what to say about that. Yetiviri. It could be a typo in this book, like the publisher. Like maybe the guy who was retyping the story, right? Typed in Yetiviri instead of every. I don't know. It's a word that exists. I don't know. Oh, sorry. Oh. Excuse me. Hi. Yetiviri quietly, and yet twisting them around her finger, and insensibly leading them wherever she would by feminine tact and generalship. It scarcely seemed to her doing. It seemed as if things had merely so fallen out that she and her father took their departure that same afternoon in a farm cart and went further down the valley to wait until their own house was ready for them in another hamlet. But Will had been observing closely, and was well aware of her dexterity and resolution. When he found himself alone, he had a great many curious matters to turn over in his mind. He was, he was very sad and solitary to begin with. All the interest had gone out of his life, and he might look up at the stars as long as he pleased, and somehow failed to find support or consolation. And then he was in such a turmoil of spirit about Marjorie. He had been puzzled and irritated at her behavior, and yet he could not keep himself from admiring it. He thought he recognized a fine perverse angel in that still soul which he had never hitherto suspected. And though he saw it was an influence that would fit but ill with his own life of artificial calm. He could not keep himself from ardent, ad- ardent oh sorry ardently from ardently desiring to possess it. Like a man who has lived among shadows and now meets the sun, he was both pained and delighted. As the days went forward, he passed from one extreme to another. Now, but the latter burst forth from the time to time with an unruly violence, and then he would forget with remorse. Too equable, too equable, steady-minded will, this state of matters was intolerable, and he was determined, at whatever cost, to bring it to an end. So, one warm summer afternoon, he put on his best clothes, took a thorn switch in his hand, and set out down the valley by the river. As soon as he had taken, uh, where am I? I lost my place. Okay, there we go. As soon as he had taken his determination, he had regained at a bound his customary peace of heart, and he enjoyed the bright weather and the varied the variety and the variety of the scene without any admixture of alarm or unpleasant eagerness. Excuse me. It was eyes. Matter turned out. If she accepted him, he would have to marry her this time, which perhaps all was for the best. If she refused him, he would have done his utmost and might follow his own way in the future with an untroubled conscience. He hoped, on the whole, she would refuse him, and then, again, as he saw the brown roof which sheltered her, peeping through some willows at an angle of the stream, he was half inclined to reverse the wish, and more than half ashamed of himself for this infirmity of purpose. But Jory seemed glad to see him, and gave him her hand without affection or delay. I have been thinking about this marriage, he began. So have I, she answered, and I respect you more and more for a very wise man. I understood myself, and I am now quite certain that things are all for the best as they are. At the same time, ventured Will, you must be tired, she interrupted. Take a seat, and let me fetch you a glass of wine. The afternoon is so warm, and I wish you not to be displeased with your visit. You must come quite. You must come quite often, once a week, if you could spare the time. I am always so glad to see my friends. Oh, very well, thought Will to himself. It appears I was right after all. He he paid a very agreeable visit. Blah, blah, blah. And he paid a very agreeable visit. Walked home again in capital spirits, and gave himself no further concern about the matter. For nearly years, Will and Marjorie continued on these terms, seeing each other once or twice a week, without any word of love between them. And for all that time, I believe Will was nearly as happy as a man can be. He rather stinted himself the pleasure of seeing her, and he would often walk halfway over to the parsonage and then back again, as if to whet his appetite. Whet, WHET, his appetite. Indeed, there was one corner of the road whence he could see the church spire wedged in wedged into a crevice of the valley between sloping firewoods, with a uh, triangular snatch of plain by way of background, which he greatly affected as a place to sit and moralize in it. Not in it. So moralize in before returning homewards. And the peasants got so much into the habit of finding themselves there in the twilight that they gave it the name of Will o' the Mills Corner. Okay, I see where this story is going. I wonder how much. Ooh. The story is almost over. Well then, okay. Well, let me stretch for a second. Oh, stretchy. Stretchy. You liking the story? I'm liking the story. At the end of the 3 years, Majori played him a sad trick on. Well, at the end of the 3 years, Majori played him a sad trick by suddenly marrying. Oof. Regret. You're gonna regret friend zoning me. Majori played him a sad trick by suddenly marrying somebody else. Will kept his countenance bravely and merely remarked that, for as little as he knew of women, he had acted very prudently. He had acted very prudently in not marrying her himself 3 years before. She plainly knew very little of her own. She plainly knew very little of her own mind, and in spite of a deceptive manner, was as fickle and flighty as the rest of them. He had to congratulate himself on an escape, he said, and would take a higher opinion of his own wisdom and conscience. But at heart, he was reasonably displeased. Moped a good deal for a month or two, and fell away in flesh, to the astonishment of his serving lads. It was perhaps a year after this marriage that Will was awakened late one night by the sound of a horse galloping on the road, followed by precipitate knocking at the inn door. Anyway, he opened his window and saw a farm servant mounted and holding a lead a led horse by the bridle. Sorry, I am stumbling with words today. It's just my knee. Just stumbling with words today. The time is 2:50. The bridle, who told him what haste he could and go with him. For sorry. For Majori was dying and had sent urgently to fetch him to her bedside. Will was no horseman, and made so little speed upon the way that the poor young wife was very near her end before he arrived. But they had some minutes talk in private, and he was present and wept very bitterly while she breathed her last. The next chapter of this short story is going to be called Death. Well, that was an unexpected turn. I was not prepared for it. I mean, I saw death. I did a sneak peek because I was trying to see how much more of this short story I had to go, and I saw that it said death, but I didn't know it was going to be. I didn't know it was going to be majority. It just said death, and I thought it was going to be like, okay, this is the death of the. But no, it's the death of Mev. Apparently. Oh well. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Just doing some more stretches. It's a little bit cold in here. Let me get myself a little blanket to go over my legs. Ugh. Death. We're going to continue for this chapter because by the looks of it, let's see. Because the end of the story is not too far away by the looks of it. But, however, you know what? How is? I'll read the first paragraph, and then we're going to cut it there. My mouth is not. It's not hurting. It's just like blah 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 blah. My mouth. I'm gonna say sore. It just needs. That'd be different. I might try. I won't lie. I might try to do it. I use things, but I feel like I should not. Yeah, never mind. You know what? Scratch that. I won't. Unless I do, then you can tell me that I'm a liar. I'm a sort of stupid liar. Blah blah blah. Pants on fire. Blah 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 blah, and all that jazz, right? But what I'm gonna do. I'll think about it. I'll just continue reading, and then let's take a moment. Let's just take a moment. Okay. before I continue, uh, I think we can talk about this. Like, have any of y'all had death of a friend, or not death of a friend? Oh yeah, death of a friend. It says, like, did you have any regrets with that friend? Did you want to like, uh, were you in the same situation as Mill? Not Mill. Were you in the same situation as Will? Where you're like, oh no, like, as clearly he couldn't. The dude could not make up his mind. Like, he made up his mind, but like after making up his mind, he wanted to change it again. The dude really wanted to change his mind again. He like didn't want to admit it or whatever. Regardless, he also gave her the choice, but she also like, no, you made up your mind. You made up your mind. And it was clear that she wanted to change her mind as well. But at the same time, instead of asking him to marry, right, she decides just to marry someone else 3 years later. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, Will. Okay, sorry, for some reason I couldn't do that. Anyways, you got Will. He's like, well, I kind of don't want to marry you, but yeah. He did like, it didn't say that he kind of want to marry her, but like the way he like acted, the dude was like, we should just be friends, right? But like, come on. He would visit her not just once a week, but twice a week, right? Once or twice a week. He continuously go back and forth, back and forth. And he would sit, and then they literally that the dude could not marry her, and she like just married someone else, and then they could, uh, and then she dies, and then he probably regrets not marrying her. So my question to you, for me to you, is: have you ever met someone who marrying them? I guess, like, you wanted to marry them. You said no. Then they die of something, and then you regret not marrying them. I guess. Question. I know. Deep question. Very, very. It's probably also a question. It's probably a question I should not be asking, because that's also a personal question, and I should have thought that question through. Uh, um, regardless, I feel like that's still a question that the internet would probably answer with responsibility, with some restraint to their answers or how they answer. You're gonna have crazy answers, aren't you? I feel like y'all are gonna have crazy answers. So anyone that watches this video or stream or whatever, this, well, not once it's over, once it's no longer, but whatever. Whoever watches this, and if you decide to type in a very out of pocket answer, I will hide it. Or, yeah, something to that extent. I will tell you, you know better. You know better. Anyways, I'm talking about like a friend, like that you just like, or do you not regret? Do you not regret not marrying someone? Wait, no. Do you? Yeah. Do you not regret not marrying someone? If you don't regret marrying someone, that is a best friend, and then like they die before you die, right? Like you, like, oh no, they're dead. I couldn't marry them, right? But you don't regret. That's also a question that I would like to see your answer section below, and also be don't be out about it. Don't be strange. Don't be weird about it. Don't be mean about it either. I'm just saying, like, or did you just know a friend that you had that just died or passed away, right? Whether you regret marrying them or not, right? Or regret not spending enough time with them. There's another thing. Maybe you regret not spending enough time with a friend that passes away or that had passed away, right? I can't relate. There's me personally, I either don't or do date. There's no like. um, there are some friends that I wish I'd spend more time with, but like not some of like middle school, high school friends I haven't seen in a while because I would move to different schools or just not write down their phone number, or their phone number has changed because like after school like they drop their phone and like they get a new phone and a new phone number. I don't know why your number, and then now you can keep your number. That's what maybe I don't know. Regardless, I also don't keep the yearbooks. I don't keep the yearbooks to the numbers. So yeah, that's another thing. But yeah. Next stream. Next potential stream. Me and Dominic. The Star Wars movies. Okay, we're all covering the Star Wars movies. Maybe one or two TV shows. Maybe we won't talk about everything Star Wars. And that's another thing. We like when it comes to these live streams, we'll come back to certain subjects again. So yeah, we'll come back to these subjects just on a later date. So there was something on the screen. There we go. Okay. Okay. Now we're gonna start continuing the next paragraph of the segment or the chapter or whatever called death. After you away into nothing. Oh, excuse me. Year after year went away into nothing, with great explosions and outcries in the cities on the plain, red revolt springing up and being suppressed in blood, battle swaying hither and thither, patient astronomers and observatory towers picking out and christening new stars, plays being performed in lighted theaters, people being carried into hospital on stretchers, and all the usual turmoil and agitation of men's lives in crowded centers. Sorry. Up Hill's valley, only the winds and seasons made it epoch. It made an epoch. The fish hung in the swift stream, and the birds circled overhead. The pine tops rustled underneath the stars, and the tall hill stood over all. And Will went to and fro, minding his wayside inn, until the snow began to thicken on his head. His heart was young and vigorous, and if his pulses kept a sober time, they still steadily in. He carried a ruddy stain on either cheek, like a ripe apple. He stooped a little, but his step was still firm, and sinewy his sinewy hands were reached out to all men with a friendly pressure. His which are God and which rightly looked at are no more than a sort of permanent sunburning. Such wrinkles heighten the stupidity of stupid faces, but to a person like Will, with his clear eyes and smiling mouth, only give another charm by testifying to a simple and easy life. His talk, his talk was full of wise sayings. He had a taste for other people. He had a taste for other people, and other people had a taste for him. When the valley was full of tourist season, there were merry nights and wills were often enough admired by learned colleges. Indeed, he had a very noble old age, and grew daily better known, so that his fame was heard of in cities of the plain, and young men who had been summer travelers spoke together in cafes of Will o' the Mill and his rough philosophy. Many an invitation you may be sure he had, but nothing could tempt him. Excuse me. But nothing could tempt him from his upland valley. He would shake his head and smile over his tobacco pipe with a deal of meaning. You come too late. Paragraph. Where does it end? You have come too late, he would answer. I am a dead man now. I have lived and died already. 50 years ago you have brought my heart into, and now you do not even tempt me. The sweets come last. Or once more, was curious and worth looking into. Now I know it is myself to stick to that. And the paragraph is over. The long paragraph, I should say, is over. Now the next stream. Wow. As I will reread that paragraph. And then continue onward from. Oh, excuse me. Well, whew, it is a long story. For a short story. With these long paragraphs that are killing me. Just a few more pages. Just a few more pages. And then we'll be all done with Will o' the Mill. And then the next story, well, we'll look into the next story afterwards. When we come back to that, to this particular book. But I promised my brother that the next book that we'll venture into is Jurassic Park. Chapter 1 of Jurassic Park. And then after that, we'll go back to The Artificer. Now with The Artificer, no, let me see. Let me check something about The Artificer. Now with The Artificer, what I'll do for The Artificer, let's see. I'll read chapter 4. Yeah, I'll read chapter 4. And then I'll read a FNAF story. I'll read one of the FNAF stories. And then the next short story would be in this story. And then chapter 2 of Jurassic Park. I know. It's a long circle. This is the end of the stream. And wow, Will o' the Mill is a neat story. It's a story about a man or a boy that lived in a mill, grows up with his adopted parents, right? He grows up to be a man, a gentleman, and continues the family business at the mill. Rejects the woman's. Okay, no. He was the first one to offer to marry someone, and then pondered about it, and then questioned her to see if she would. He said that like it would not be worth his while. Like it would not be worth his while or their while. It would not be worth their whiles to be married. But he said, if you want to marry me, I'll marry you. So it'd be your choice. We could either be friends or we can be married, but it would not be worth our whiles. And it was obvious that he loved her. And it was obvious that she had feelings for him, or they both had feelings for each other, right? And that became, and now she passed away after she marries, and then now he's an old man. Death chapter. So once the stream closes, I'll change the thumbnail back. I'll change the thumbnail. For some reason, my laptop absolutely refuses to have that particular thumbnail, even though on my phone, when I change it on my phone, it's like, oh yeah, you're good. It's all good. It's all good here. It's a thumbnail. We can put it up there, right? For some reason on my phone, the thumbnail, it'll accept the thumbnail there. So yeah. There's that. Accept thumbnail on my phone. But well, anyways, that is all for this episode. Not for this. Well, yeah, this is all for this episode. See you all soon in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.